Carl, I know you brought something spicy.
All right,
Lay it on us.
here's my spicy take. My spicy take is that XML is better than YAML because there are situations where XML is appropriate, but there is no situation where YAML is appropriate.
Damn, shots fired.
Uh, so
uh,
now to defend my position
uh,
and therefore make it so that it becomes a popular opinion. Uh, although maybe not. This one might be spicy enough that even I can't defend it well enough. So, okay, let's talk about XML first. So XML got a really bad reputation. And the reason it got a really bad reputation is because people were using it for things that it should never have been used for. So XML, it stands for Extensible Markup Language. And if you're using it as an extensible markup language, it's actually really great. So like, let's say you're working on something and you're like, I'm making a new kind of book and I need to, annotate all of the verses in the Bible and have the chapter headings and stuff. It's like, it's great for that. It's really good for when you have a document and you need to have, some things are italicized and some things are in a foreign language and subtitles and all that stuff. It's really good for that. It's not good if it's like, okay, I need to configure this server and the server needs to know if this value is true or false. It's like, no, that's bad. Don't do that. That's not a good use for XML. But XML does have some uses for which it's appropriate. And I think the fact that now everybody is writing React and they're writing it with JSX, and JSX is basically just inline XML, I think that shows that there are cases where actually XML is pretty good. Now, YAML, on the other hand, I think is never good. There's always something better than YAML. And so we finally made it to Go 1.21, and I'm very happy about this. And you know why? Because YAML repeatedly bit me in the behind on Go 1.20. Ask me why.
Why?
Well, when you say in your test file, test this against Go 1.20, it interprets that as Go 1.2. And so it was like two or three different times.
uh,
I had a repo where I'm like, these tests aren't passing. Why are my tests not passing? I'm just upgrading it to Go 120. And it was like, oh no, I've decided that this is Go 1.2. And so YAML is always going to do that to you.
oh snap! You just reminded me. I think I had that issue in a GitHub action when I upgrade change a version of a build to 120. I think I had that exact issue. Just because it's the YAML for the GitHub workflows. I ran into that issue. Oh my god.
So yeah, my take is that YAML, I mean, I understand why people do YAML, but there are better choices. You should use, TOML. You can use Q, the thing from Raj Pepe. You can use, or I guess it's from a lot of people, but he's the guest on the show who is most associated with it. You could use, lots of things. I like how Caddy does it, where with Caddy, the canonical language that Caddy understands is JSON, but they have adapters, right? And so if you want to write YAML, you can, but it'll just take that YAML and turn it into JSON behind the scenes. And then they also have like a specific Caddy language. And so you can give it the Caddy language and then it turns that into JSON behind the scenes. And you can give it an Nginx config and it'll turn that into JSON behind the scenes. I think that is probably like if you have the cycles and time to spare, that's probably the best solution for most people. But when the only way to do it is YAML, it's like, no, it's just too error prone. There's too many things.
You just have to quote properly. Quote properly. Don't quote everything. Make sure you have the right number of tabs and the right number of spaces. Just don't, indentations. Like if you've ever done Python, you know the life of having the appropriate spacing and things.
Ugh.
So yeah, it.
Well, just the YAML specification has all these features that nobody ever uses, which because they're like really confusing and hard, and it's like you can include documents inside of other documents with references and stuff, and it's like, oh man, I don't want to have to understand any of this stuff. And then if you're not careful, it'll be like, oh yeah, the first three things I fed it to understood that, but then the third one was just like using some some parser that they found on the back of a truck and it doesn't understand it, and it's like, oh man, it's like YAML never appropriate. XML is sometimes appropriate.